So I'll start on the weekly and use that as kind of like a guide. So like, for example, what I'll do on the weekend is I'll go through and pull up in TC2000, like US stocks, for example. I'll filter for price. So you start with the Berkshires. There you go. And then, so I'll just start going like, boom, boom. My software's kind of slow. Boom. And and my eyes are trained now. It may take people a little bit longer. So I'll just do this for a couple hours. Maybe it doesn't take that long, but I'll just go through all the stocks. And then maybe you can do the same thing for like ADRs, or there's somewhere in here. So I just use that as like my main starting point for my weekend work. And so if there's like a pattern setting up, there's nothing here on this one, but I would add this one to my watch list. There's like the little star up here. You can click to add it to your watch list. So I'll have my main watch list here. I haven't cleaned this up in a while, but then I'll like at the end of like during the week, once I have after the weekend work's done, I'll have at night, I'll go through this one. So I'll start with like alphabetical order. I'll do the same thing. I'll just kind of comb through. Maybe something just got obliterated and I'll take it off. But another thing I started doing the last few years is how I found BTBT is I'll go through each day. I'll go to US stocks, and then I want to know what stocks made the biggest move for that day. And you'll get, when you do this, you'll get a lot of these like penny stocks that you can just ignore. But I'll just go through these big movers of the day just to see like some of the volume, like some of these are just dog shit, but like these volume moves are just huge. So I kind of want to know, are there certain things like that's garbage? That must be like a SPAC or something. Penny stocks I'll ignore, but what's this Bally? $30 stock? Looks like shit, but there's the character change with volume coming in. So this is kind of how I found BTBT is you get these usually on the biggest movers of the day, you get these big volume surges. And a lot of times there'll be stuff like sitting near 52-week lows. But I mean, a lot of these I'll ignore, but I'll just kind of comb through to figure out, okay, what are people piling into? Like this MDRX, I think I already have it on my watch list, but this is something I would definitely put on mine. Like it's running into some resistance here potentially, but maybe after like a few weeks, this will set up, flag out or something, and then maybe it wants to take it out. So I'll usually do this first. And then once I have everything added to my watch list, then I'll go back and go to, my favorites and do that. And then if there's something that's just about to set up, I'll put it on my focus list, which I don't think I have anything on here. Maybe I have a few stuff. So like, I haven't really cleaned this up, but like bros, for example, today, this is almost like a head and shoulders pattern. Like here's a left shoulder head. Maybe this is like a right shoulder. So this would be like the neckline. And so you could say, oh, okay, we kind of wedged down into it, but it shook out a couple of times. Like here's the first shake coming down again. It's almost like a double bottom shakeout. And then it just ripped through this descending trend line today. So maybe this thing, it doesn't like this compared to others, it didn't quite make it down to this initial IPO low. So in this market, that's like a sign of relative strength because some of the other stuff's just been getting undercut, like a coin or docs or whatever, that stuff's getting undercut. But this one didn't really go all the way back down. So maybe this is something that's showing relative strength, like this SG, kind of the same thing. This one actually shook out a low, but it kind of wedged down in. And then like had a massive bar yesterday, came down to retest, and then boom, closing on highs again. So maybe this is one to keep track of. And maybe if you get some sort of tight entry, if you missed it over here. So that's the kind of like thought process is I'll go through like the big movers of each day. If I see something that looks interesting, I'll add it to my watch list. But on the weekend, I usually just, again, go back and go to this US stocks, start with the Amazons. And I also like to look at like a ATR, like average true range. Like, does it know how to move or is it kind of like a slug? And again, you just go like one by one, just, boom, a couple seconds on each, boom, 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 boom. And a lot of times you'll find nothing. And sometimes it's like where we're at now, like, why bother even looking for stuff when things are getting hammered? But you should not, even though we think there's no setups, you never know. You just stick with your routine and don't get away from your routine. Just get used to doing it. And because you never know when things will pop up. The market can change in a dime. You just never know when stuff will surface. And so you always want to just have that solid routine and go through and just kind of comb through. I'll just go through. I mean, a lot of this stuff looks pretty bad, but maybe for every 500 charts look bad. Maybe there's one that looks good and you want to maybe put it on your wall. Like, well, not anymore, but this was kind of tightening up here, but REGN is now looking like I maybe want to take out the lows. Like bios have been, you want to focus on strong groups too. So the reason I do this, there's probably an easier way to scan through and find stronger groups, but I like to kind of do it old school, find out, is there a theme of all my watch lists? Are they 80% like energy names? Maybe I should be looking at energy names because they're super strong. Because you want ideally the market at your back, and you want the best group at your back, and you want the leading stock in that group, ideally. Every now and then you can get a super strong salmon swimming upstream in like some crap group. Like maybe you'll find a tech stock that's bucking the trend, but the rest of the group is horrible. You want the group and the market behind you. Sure, you can get away with it at times, but that really kind of helps put the wind at your back and kind of helps set you up for a better probability of success. So this is kind of my routine. And in the morning, I really don't look at pre-market movers too much, only if they're on like my watch list for the day. But usually a lot of my work is done at night. And if I get alerts during the day, maybe I'll come here and check them out. And because sometimes I'm used to my phone now. Like TradingView is really good, like I said, but it's nicer on a big screen to kind of comb through stuff. So
yeah, I was going to ask you, you already talked about it a little bit, but if there's anything different you do, given that we are kind of in a corrective market downtrend right now, if there's any like extra screens that you run to try to find those stocks that were bucking the trend.
No, nothing changes for me. I mean, it's really, again, it just all comes down to setups. And I have an idea like indexes where they are, but I'm not even like bothering to look at those right now. I just want to try and find like, are there any stocks that are, emerging? So maybe like the indexes are making lower lows. The way to identify maybe something that's bucking is maybe it hasn't corrected as much is one thing. Maybe it's starting to make higher lows, like where everything else is making lower lows. Maybe this thing's making higher lows and it's not ready to go yet, but you want to pick up on that kind of stuff. But I'm not changing my tactics or my strategy. I know right now is a horrible time for what I do. So I'm not going to try and learn some new setup or whatever. Again, like you don't want to really get off track. Just know, like I said, that your strategy is going to have an off season. Right now, this is an off season for what a lot of us do. And you don't need to force the issue and just let things come to you. I mean, don't be so proactive to want to force things in there. Just wait for things. They'll speak to you when the market wants to go. You'll know, like right now you should be sitting doing nothing. You shouldn't be in a rush to do anything really. I mean, unless you're a day trader, you're probably doing okay. But for people that are looking for bigger moves, like this is a time to study, go back and look at, prior winners, still go through the scans, what's making, sometimes I will say when the news is worst and nobody wants to buy anything, but maybe there's a stock like a Bros today that just busted out of that downtrend line. It's scary as hell. You don't want to do it. All the bad news is out there. Those are sometimes the best time to buy. It's because like you just got to do it. You just got to take the plunge, and you don't want to maybe go too big into it, but maybe like a little pilot position. And because like if you think back to like when what's a good example? Back in 2008, things were getting clobbered. I mean, maybe it was like Priceline or one of those stocks. That thing started to break out, but people probably didn't want to touch it because the broader market was getting creamed. But again, those are when the leaders start to emerge, and it's scary as hell to buy, but you just got to take the plunge sometimes. And maybe you don't do it on huge size, but because when everybody's on the same side of the boat, like, I don't know if I have no idea what sentiment's like right now, but whenever everybody thinks we're going to be crashing, you should probably be looking for longs. And, unless you caught a short, miles higher, like shorting, I don't really short that much. I'm not good at shorting. Shorting is a lot harder. Like if you look at a monthly chart of the market, it just goes up, right? I mean, maybe you have some blips here and there. And I don't really like shorting breakdowns per se, like a breakout, but to the downside, because the biggest market rallies happen during bearish environments. And so you got to be quick. I like shorting. Like if I short, it'll be like a parabolic short, something goes parabolic. And then you get a gap down, right? Or it meanders around on lighter volume back up. And then those plunges can be super duper. But I don't really short too much. I just kind of like to stay out of it. I mean, if you're shorting the last few months, you've been doing great. But it's not my comfort zone. I know what I'm good at. I know what I'm not that great at. And so I just try and sit around for the good times to come again, which they eventually will. So keep that powder dry as you can. And don't be in a rush to do anything when the market's kind of volatile like this, because you want things to tighten up. I mean, ideally, on like the Qs, for example, if we can get like a week or two of, I don't know, who knows, maybe we're going to never see this low again for a few more months. Maybe we kind of meander up and maybe do a double bottom, who knows? But if we can get like some sort of tightness here for a week or two, then maybe, even though we're below the channel and maybe we still need more time on a bigger time frame, maybe there'll be some things to do. Maybe there's some strong stocks that will have tight, small pivot points you can buy through. So you just have to be open to anything. Don't get too biased because all of Twitter's predicting the end of the world or whatever. So always keep an open mind and just stick to the routines and don't sway away from it. So just keep doing it every day, even though you think the market's stinks, because you never know, like I said, when it's going to come back.